Welcome everyone. We're going to do a series of videos on negative numbers, and this is just an introduction to this topic. And I'm just going to start with some real world examples here. And what I've done is I've got a few things here, I lost most of them, but some batteries. On one end of the battery you have a positive printed there, and on the other one, these batteries don't have the negative, but we assume that the other terminal of that battery is a negative. This battery here has a positive and a negative side. Both those terminals even look different, so it's hard to confuse those things and get the batteries in the wrong way. So I think most electronics now have circuit protection in them to stop you making that mistake and getting things around the wrong way. But when you're doing your mathematics, you do not have that option. You have not got that level of protection there. So you need to understand a few things with this idea of positive and negative. And there's a few little tips I'm going to give you to help you embed a few little practices that will, I guess, hopefully let you get it right most of the time. There's still a few mistakes. I still make mistakes, and when I analyze where those mistakes are, it's often to do with a change of sign, going from positive to a negative or around the other way. So I've got some other examples here where we've got to think carefully about positive and negative. I've got some electrical wire here, and the only real difference between these two wires is that one of those wires, I'm not sure whether the camera's going to pick it up there, has a little black stripe printed on it. And if you want to upgrade that, like, I'm not sure whether anyone's used these things here, but you might have had a flat battery in your car, for example, and these are color coded because you don't want to get them confused on the positive and the negative side of the battery terminals. Otherwise you'll see the sparks start flying as you short out the batteries. There's other examples here. Perhaps I'm not going to open up my phone and show you, but in my bank account, when money goes into my bank account, it appears green. It's color coded. Perhaps it should have a plus sign in front of it to indicate that the money is flowing into my account. And every time I make a withdrawal on my bank account details, there comes up a negative sign. So that negative is to indicate that the money is going out of my bank account. So I've just taken the details away from here, but I'm not sure whether the camera's going to pick this up, but it doesn't really matter. This is a water bill, and it shows how much water is being consumed. And down on the final line here, it's got $238 CR. That means actually in credit here. So you need to be able to look at these bills, and maybe they should have plus or minuses next to them. And we could argue about if I've paid too much money on this bill this time or previously, and this time I'm in credit and I don't actually have to pay anything, and I'm still in credit on the bill, have I paid too much? And we could argue financially about whether that's a good idea or not when I'm paying bills. But maybe we won't get that far down the line. Maybe really what we've got to think about now, and this is what I'm going to say to you, is I'm going to jump on the light board in a minute and emphasize this a lot more, but there is a positive side to the number line and a negative side to the number line. I've just put -5 and +5 either side of 0 here to indicate that. So what do we actually got to think about when we're doing all this work? We've got to think about ideas, the sign, positive or negative, and the size of the number, okay? We might call that the magnitude of the number, okay? We all know what 5 looks like. So they're the types of concepts that we've got to grapple with. So that's what I want to show you in a little bit more detail on the number line. And what I'm going to encourage you to do is that if you're not really sure, there's 2 things I want you to do. 1, draw a number line, and 2, make it explicit. If it is in this unit, if it is positive 5, put positive 5 like that. Put a plus sign in front of that number to indicate that it's on the positive side of the number line. It's not being lazy. It's really important, and it's one of those little tips that I'd like to try and embed into your work that actually in the long run will help you out. And if it's negative 5, make the sign really big. Make it obvious to everyone that it is minus 5. A lot of guys come in here and they might put a little, the camera can hardly pick that up. They've put a little line in there. I don't know whether they're trying to save paper or pens or ink or something, but it causes a lot of mistakes because it's easy to overlook. So my big tip, if it is negative 5, make that negative really big and obvious for everyone to see so you don't make as many mistakes. All right, I'm going to get behind the light board and show you a few more things. Okay, thank you. Now I'm behind the light board and we're talking about negative numbers, and the key thing to realize here is that each number has a size, and what we're learning now is that we need to think about the sign as well. And my big tips here are to put a positive or a negative. I often use these symbols. For positive, I might put plus VE instead of writing out positive, and put the negative sign and then a VE on the end of that as well. They're just different ways. Like we saw the symbols on the batteries. These are my shorthand ways of writing out a positive or a negative when I'm just thinking about the sign, okay? And you'll see that through these series of videos here. And they're my little tips for you. So size, we've got this word here, magnitude. You might see this either in the textbook or you might hear me talking about it. To me, they're interchangeable words, okay? And we'll look at that in a moment. And sign, there's one way of thinking about it as whether it's positive or negative, and the other way to think about it is it's telling us a direction, either to move left or to move right. So got to keep those things in mind as we do this work. So I'm just encouraging you at any stage to sketch out a number line. You can put 0 in the middle. 0 is like a landmark here, but 0 doesn't have to be in the middle. If we're dealing with mostly negative numbers, for example, I might shift the 0 over here. And the opposite is, I do the opposite as well. I put the 0 over here sometimes if I'm dealing with some big positive numbers, and maybe I'm only going to -2 on the negative side. Okay, so the key thing is your number lines should be really flexible, and they are just sketches, and they're just there to help you locate the numbers, to make sense of them, and have a few landmarks here. So 0 has no sign. It's neither positive or negative. It's the only number. Think about all the numbers that exist, and that's the only one that doesn't have a sign. And these are our positive numbers over here, and these are our negative numbers here. Okay, and often think the arrows on the end here are telling us something, that the number line continues in these directions here. So eventually this would approach, this symbol here is for infinity. Infinity is not a number, but it's an idea, and I'd set it up like this. We're sort of thinking about the negative side of infinity. And on the other hand, we're heading off here in this direction with this other arrow, saying that we're heading off to positive infinity. Okay, so there's some words here that I've got to think carefully about, and some questions here asking you to put numbers in ascending order. If we think about a number on the number line, and I might just quickly sketch a new number line over here, and we have 0 in the middle. These are negative numbers over here, and this side we've got the positive numbers. For example, if we had negative 10 over here, and on this side we had positive 10 here. Now they're the same size. One's negative, one's positive. Okay. If we're asked to put them in ascending order, we start over here with the most negative number. Okay. And we put them in ascending order, and then we'll cross 0, and then we'll be dealing with something that we're used to over here on the positive side of 0. Okay. So I want you to think about this. Let's imagine this. We've got Mount Everest here, and we've moved Mount Everest over here, and let's just say this point here is 8,000 meters above sea level. Here's our ocean, Mount Everest. We've shoved over to the edge of the continent here, and not only that, we've gone and moved the Mariana Trench, and maybe we're down here somewhere at 600 meters, 6,000 meters below sea level. All right. So what we tend to do is call sea level 0 meters here, and below sea level we are looking at negative numbers. So maybe we need a negative in front of there. And above sea level, as we move up, we might need a positive 8,000 there. So we've got this sort of idea. If we were in a submarine and we moved to the surface and suddenly jumped in a helicopter and went up to 8,000 meters and landed on Mount Everest or something, what's a difference? What's a distance that we've moved? And that's one of the key things that you need to understand here, is when you see the word difference, we're talking about distance. So that's in the vertical sense. Let's do exactly the same thing, but let's kind of map it out. There's 0 in the middle here. We've got minus 6,000 here. And we've got plus 8,000 over here. And what's the actual distance that we've moved in terms of elevation from below the surface to up to the tallest mountain that we have here on Earth? So the distance between here to the surface is 6,000 meters. And then the distance from sea level to 8,000 meters on Mount Everest is 8,000 meters. From here to here, the total distance there is 14,000 meters. Okay, and we have to be careful, because if we just took those numbers and added them together, we might get a really strange answer, and not be aware of what's happening mathematically. So I think it's a really good idea to draw number lines, and that's the key message that I've got for you here today. So I'm going to stop talking about number lines, and I just want to point out one or two more things. I'll clean the board and I'll be back with you. Okay, so I've just rewritten everything on the board over here. All the key points are there for you, and I just want to stop and talk a little bit about money, where we're going to use a plus to indicate money has been deposited into account, okay, and a negative for withdrawal. Okay, so you've used that money to pay for something, and this helps us build a bit of financial sort of sense of what's happening. Like I said in the video, there's a negative sign next in my account every time I take money out and pay for something. So you see questions in your book written out like a sort of list saying we've got some money there, and then we've taken some money out, and then we paid for something else. So we are buying things, we put some money in, okay, and then perhaps what we've done here is take some more money out and finally put some money back in. Okay, so, and then they ask you to add up all this stuff in this column here. What I would suggest to you when you see these kinds of questions, when you write it out, well, this money's come into your account, so let's put a positive sign, and I already did that over here, so just automatically. What I'm seeing here is money coming in, and in a ledger system, what we'd actually do is have different columns here. So the money coming in, we would put it in one column here, and I'm just doing that now. And how much money come in here? What have we got? $295. If I've got that right. Plus, I'm going to put a plus sign there. And then our withdrawal, with our withdrawals, we would put them in a separate column. So we'd have 10, 130 there, subtract another 100 here. And what do we got there? We've got minus 240. So in this example here, maybe what's happened here is we've put some money into, if this was us trading, business, doing something like that, we've got money flowing into our account, so that has a positive sign next to it. And then we're buying things or paying for things, and they turn up in a separate column as a withdrawal. So money flowing out, the negative sign indicates money's flowing out of your account. So at the end of the day, when we reconcile what's happened for the day, for example, here we've got still positive $50 in our account, and we would say, oh well, maybe that would be cash flow positive would be the word that we would say. And if we're doing business, we made $50 for the day, all good and well. We could change this really quickly, and let's just add in a 0 there and change the numbers here to 330. Not sure whether that's going to show up there. And after a day's trading, minus 330. Well, we are in a different situation here now. We are subtract $35 and that's what we've done for the day. Perhaps we've spent more money than what we made. So we would call that cash flow negative. And on the balance of things, hopefully, if you're running a good business, you're always making more money than what's going out the door, so to speak. So that's the kind of thing they're getting you to do. I think it's really doing this in a column here. That's what they're asking you to do in the textbook. I'm just trying to free up your mind here a little bit and show you a different way to set it out. I feel like there's a high chance of making a mistake in here because you're flipping from addition and subtraction, and certainly in the business world we would set up two different columns. Okay, in our ledger, in our accounts, we would have two separate columns for money flowing into an account and money being subtracted from an account. So hopefully that helps you.